Yeah, I am so glad that you're asking about this. It's a really fun bill and a fun story. It is a bill to, it was a piece of legislation to set up a task force to look at childcare solutions. So the challenges around childcare are really, really big. This was just trying to take a small bit of that and say, okay, can we look at employer supported solutions to childcare? So you have a business that might either give their employees money for childcare or might set up a childcare on site. So it's to create a task force appointed by the governor with a bunch of different business leaders, with a bunch of different stakeholders from all over the state to say, let's spend all of the time during the interim, so 18 months, we'll meet regularly and we'll share best practices, we'll talk about what's working, what's not working, and then hopefully at the end come up with some really interesting policy solutions to help support businesses and help move the needle on childcare. Oh my gosh, so important. I mean, nothing can happen in a vacuum. I think something that's really interesting about the legislative session is it all happens so quickly, and oftentimes we're making policies about people or businesses, communities across Montana who don't get the chance to participate. So ideally, the long process before a bill comes into being is talking to a bunch of people and saying, what problems are you seeing? What barriers out there? What challenges are you running up against? And how can we support you as legislators, as policymakers? If our work is to support communities across the state, what does that look like? So this bill was years in the making. It came from a bunch of businesses coming forward, actually to a Republican colleague of mine saying, hey, this is the issue we're up against. We can't hire workers, we can't retain workers because they can't afford childcare. There's not any childcare in Bozeman or in the Gallatin Valley. So they came to us, said, let's study this, let's put a bill in action. We got a bunch of funders to put some money towards this. And then it was really cool because throughout the process of the bill, all these business owners and folks across the state came and testified and said, here's the issue, and here's why this is a first step in helping us figure out how to solve that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it is a task force. So it was designed to say, we actually as legislators don't know, you as a business owner know. But some ideas that we got really excited about are how do you make it easier for a business to set up an on-site childcare? So you have a business and you have a bunch of employees coming all over the Gallatin Valley. What does it look like to have, how would it be easier? What are some of the barriers? There's a ton of red tape in terms of licensure requirements. So what are some of the barriers to creating that, and can we make it easier for business owners? Another one would have been to say, how can we incentivize co-ops? So that would be like a bunch of different manufacturers, and none of them have the infrastructure, the resources, or the employees, the critical mass of employees to set up their own childcare. But what would it look like to create a childcare space where all these different manufacturers can help subsidize that and then support it? So a bunch of early ideas, but we sadly, and maybe you're getting to this, it got vetoed. So we didn't get the chance we didn't get the chance to see what the solutions were going to be. Yeah, it's really, I mean, I just think it's such an interesting indication of how hard a bill is to get passed. So it passes out of committee, then it passes through the House on the House floor. It has to pass through 2 votes on the House floor. Then it goes over to the Senate and gets through Senate committee. Then it goes to the Senate floor. Then if it's amended, it goes back to the House. I mean, it's just a wild process. And then it goes to the governor's office. I think the governor vetoed it because he didn't want to be mandated to do a task force. His veto letter said that they had the money for it already. They had the solutions figured out. They just had to go do it. Actually, the silver lining on all of that is I've kind of taken that idea and I'm continuing to do work on it, which is really freaking cool, bringing together a bunch of stakeholders, bringing together a bunch of policymakers, bringing the governor's office along. And instead of just employer-supported childcare, we're tackling all parts of childcare. So workforce, where are the workers coming from? Where can we make it more affordable? How can it be more accessible? Where can we be supporting small businesses? So it's cool because it's just morphed into this other beautiful thing. But I did feel a little sad. I was like, that tiny bill went so far. Oh my gosh, I love that question. So I want to say parents, but probably really it would be small business owners, because the solutions, there are a ton of solutions out there for parents, but that mostly focuses on just making childcare more affordable and accessible. And this is specifically towards businesses across Montana to say, okay, you want to recruit and retain workers, how can we make it as easy as possible for you to support them in childcare? So it was kind of a business bill as opposed to a family bill, even though they overlap.
Firstly, I want to thank Alice for taking the time to answer my questions, but as for alternative policies, there's really not that many, as this bill was just setting up a committee to look at what policies might have worked and had community support. However, what might have changed the outcome from this bill being vetoed would have been more community involvement and more community support, as I think that if the public really rallied behind this bill, I don't believe it would have been vetoed.